A long time ago, someone made a statement that what the eyes see and the ears hear, the mind believes. That's true as far as human nature is concerned. It was said by one of the greatest illusionists of all times, Harry Houdini. What the eyes see and the ears hear, the mind believes. Although I hold a doctorate degree in theology, I managed to sneak in about 6 years of psychology while I was at it because the science of the mind had always fascinated me. And the one thing that I learned from all of the different forms of psychology, I had studied the different disciplines and all of those different things, is that the number one most powerful weapon against the human mind is terror. If you get a human being afraid, they are willing to do just about anything. Satan himself spoke to God about Job. When God said, "Have you considered my servant Job?" God said, "Have you considered my servant Job?" And Satan said, "Skin for skin. A man will give everything to save his own life." Satan knows human nature very well. He deals with it every day. He told God, he said, "Touch his bone and touch his flesh and he'll curse you to your face." But you see, Job was not a normal person. He believed in God and not in human nature. And he wound up prevailing, and God knew he would. But for those who operate off of raw emotion and raw human nature, Satan was correct. Fear. That's how you control people. Now, although many, many people are saved, they are still living in fear this morning. Why? Because they have subjected themselves to the bombardment of all of the forms of media out there. And all you hear is negative, gloom, doom, COVID-1, COVID-2, Lambda, Kappa, Gamma, Delta, Dolta, whatever you want to call it. And they will never give up until they have taken total control of your mind, your heart, and your soul. That's the devil's game. See, I'm one of those that doesn't necessarily believe that this bug came from a lab in Wuhan. I believe it came straight out of the pits of hell. And that's the way we are going to have to combat it, with spiritual warfare. Now, one night when I got home late, Don and I always getting home late, I stepped out of the car and I heard all this yelping and barking and carrying on and howling. And it was a large pack of coyotes in the woods right down below us. And they were coming toward the house. And even though I'm always strapped, I didn't feel sufficiently strapped. So I told Donna, let's get in the house. And I reached in the corner and I got me a Mossberg Model 935 semi-automatic door breech barrel with 8 rounds of double-aught buckshot. And I walked out there in the yard and I wasn't afraid of the devil himself with that thing. I was looking for them coyote to come up there after what was left of my chickens, and I was going to let them have it. And I don't care how many it was, I had a bandolier with me also. I don't believe in piddling. I go all the way when I'm going to war with something. But now, on the other hand, we have something coming for us now. And it's bringing fear and it's bringing terror. And this fall, the powers that be are fully intending of just finally doing away with any form of normalcy in your life, including the closures of the houses of God around this nation. They've got to get them out of the way first before they can do anything. And a lot of them, sadly, have shown what they were made of, and they've gone running with their tails tucked. An evangelist in North Carolina said that the churches still have not repented and apologized to God for what they've done over the last year, running from the devil. Now, when we are faced with that kind of a force and that kind of a fear, it's time to slip back in the house and get another weapon. The weapon of human reasoning is not going to cut it, because we have been bombarded with fear and terror. And even though you swear you don't believe it, if you sneeze, you know you panic.
Sure.
Come on now, you know it's true. You've heard that mess. You have a cough, people run for cover. You want to get the whole grocery aisle to yourself? Do that one time and watch them run. People have been conditioned to be terrified. I'm going to tell you that allergy season has brought on the biggest witch hunts I've ever seen in my life. COVID, COVID, COVID. And they've got so many letters of the alphabet to keep hitting you with. It's going after the old people. It's going after the young people. It's going after the middle-aged people, and on and on and on. What if it is? Time to get a weapon, people. Time to get a weapon. The very first thing you need to do is get yourself out of harm's way and turn that doggone television off. Turn it off. Quit watching the news and feeding your soul with garbage all day long. It affects you. I don't care who you are affected by it. And then go back in the house and get the Mossberg 935 semi-automatic Holy Bible with a door breaching barrel and 8 rounds of buckshot in it. Get this out. This is what you need to fight.
Yeah.
Mike Duff says he reads Psalm 91 every day. That's a good way to start it. That's a good. Let me say this. I'm getting ready to read from Daniel chapter 3. This coming fall and this winter and this coming year is going to be the biggest test that mankind has ever faced. You're going to be faced with losing your way of life if you succumb to fear. A lot of, like I said, houses of worship are going to be gone and up for sale. It's time to draw the line in the sand and say we are not backing up any further. We're going to make our stand right here and right now, even if it kills us. Now, until you get to that point, you're not going to make it. So what if it kills you? You will go straight in the presence of God and live. You're going to live forever somewhere anyway. Do you really believe in eternity, or how much afraid really are you? Do you believe that if you were to lose your life on the way home today, would you step out into the presence of God, or would you spend an eternity in hell? Because those are the two places you will go when you die. It's not over when you die. I don't care what anybody says. It's not over. It's just getting started. So you might as well pick where you're going now. Hey, this is not our home.
Amen.
This earth is not our home. We are here temporarily. We're passing through. We're here to produce fruit for the Savior, to get converts, to get more people saved on our journey to heaven. Eventually, you're going out of here. Any of y'all 50 years old and older know you've got fewer days ahead of you than you do behind you. So you better be getting ready. There were 3 teenage boys that were given new names: Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Their original names were Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. They were taken into Babylonian captivity as young boys, and they were going to be set aside to stand before the king and serve before the king. And they were given the king's meat and the king's wine, and they said, "No, we don't want anything that belongs to the king. Give us water and beans to eat." They said, "We will not be part of that." And it showed that God even blessed them more, and they wound up being in leadership positions in the country that they were captive in. They were teenage boys. And yet, they did not live in not one moment of fear. Not a single moment of fear. And they were hit with every terror that you can imagine, more than what we have. Way more. Ain't nobody threatened to throw you in a furnace yet. They just said you're going to get sick and die, but not that you're going to get thrown in a furnace. They haven't promised you that yet, but let's read on. Now, Nebuchadnezzar, the king, was an arrogant, pompous man that loved himself, thought he was God. He literally did. He thought he was more powerful than God. And it said he made an image of gold whose height was 80 cubits and the breadth thereof 6 cubits. That is 90 feet tall and 9 feet wide, and he set it up in the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. Let me tell you something. If Nebuchadnezzar had set up something like that in Hogtown, we'd have picked it clean and took it in a night. There wouldn't be no statue to bow down to in Hogtown. Not no solid gold statue 90 feet high and 9 feet wide. We'd have got that. Some of the people, y'all would be dumping chunks of gold in the offering plate on Sunday. And I wouldn't ask you where it come from. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king sent to gather together. Now, it lists all of these people, and the reason why it does is they wanted you to understand that he included everybody in government, so nobody would not get the message. It said that he sent to gather together his princes and governors and captains and judges and treasurers and counselors and sheriffs and all the rulers of the provinces to come to the dedication of the image which Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. So 90 feet high, 9 feet wide, gold statue, and it was out in the middle of a plain. Then the princes, governors, captains, judges, treasurers, counselors, sheriffs, and all the rulers of the provinces were gathered together unto the dedication of the image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. And they stood before the image that Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Now they're getting ready to strike terror. They're going to use what the military referred to as psyops, psychological operations. You strike terror in the hearts of the people, and they will do whatever you tell them to do. And we are being hit by that today. Please remember that this story parallels what these boys went through, and we need to watch what they do and how they react so we know what we're supposed to do as well. But the king is getting ready to try to strike terror in the population's heart and let them see what horrible fate is going to await them if they don't do what they are told. And we're going to see how they react. It says, then a herald cried. Verse 4. Listen, here it is. To you it is commanded, O people, nations and languages, that at what time you hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, dulcimer, and all kinds of music, you fall down and worship the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. He was a narcissist. He planned one day to die in his own arms. He loved himself so much that that image, from what I'm told, looked like him. And he wanted people to bow to him, and he thought, again, like I told you before, he thought he was more powerful than any god. And said, when you hear the sound of all of these instruments, you fall down and worship the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king has set up. And then here's the instant sentence. There is no lawyers, there's no trial, there's no putting it off, or nothing. There's no reprieve, no appeal. It said, and whosoever falleth not down and worship shall the same hour, right away, be cast into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. Now he had that burning fiery furnace where everybody could see it. And apparently he had used it to punish people before. It doesn't sound like it's anything new. But they're going to use this as a sentence that anybody that does not bow down and worship the state, there you have it, I said it, that they will be thrown into a burning fiery furnace. So, therefore at that time, and they had gathered all these people, thousands and thousands and thousands of people for the dedication of that statue, that when all the people heard the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, and all kind of music, all the people, the nations, and the languages fell down and worshiped the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. I bet he put, we're all in this together, we can do this, right on the statue. I bet he did. You can't even go to McDonald's and get a doggone cup of coffee without that written on it. And this morning they come out with that. I was listening to a radio station coming in. I should have been listening to mine. And somebody got on there and said, we're all together alone. Have y'all ever heard of anything so stupid in all your life? We're all together alone? What kind of acid is he taking? Remind me never to try drugs. You know what? We need to be together now more than we ever have been in the history of this world. The Word of God says, forsake not the assembling of ourselves together as you see the day approaching. We need to, he said, to even do it more than they did in the New Testament. As it gets worse, we need to be getting together more. And that's why I'm trying to emphasize to everybody about the importance of Wednesday nights as well. And not just Sunday mornings, and we need to fellowship together. We need to come to prayer meeting Thursday night. We're here every Thursday night at 7. We need to get busy praying for one another. As we see the day approaching, and if you don't see the day approaching, let me tell you, Jesus' return is very, very soon, according to the letters that he left us. Very, very soon. So it's not a point of we're all in this together, we can do this, and we're really together alone, all that garbage. If I'm the last one, and there won't nobody else to stand up and say I'm not going to go along with that, then so be it, I'll do it if I have to. But we need to stick together. What is it? Ben Franklin one time said we need to all hang together or we will most certainly all hang separately. Comes time to pick which way you're going to go with this. Now, at that time, after they played the music and the crowds bowed down, wherefore at that time certain Chaldeans came near and accused those Jewish young men, and they spoke and said to King Nebuchadnezzar, O king, live forever. Thou, O king, hast made a decree that every man shall hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, dulcimer, and all kinds of music, shall fall down and worship the golden image. And whoso falleth not down and worship, he shall be cast into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. They reminded the king of his own law. And here we go. There's a Karen in every group. There are certain Jews, king, which you have set over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, O king, have not regarded thee. They serve not thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. They played him. They knew he was a big, selfish baby, and that anybody not doing his bidding would just enrage him to no end. They knew that. And they were jealous of those boys because of the integrity that they had and the stand that they made, and they wanted them dead. So Nebuchadnezzar, in his rage and fury, commanded to bring Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and they brought these men before the king. I want you to picture what it looked like. These were three fairly insignificant young men. They were taken from their home. They were taken from their families. They had nothing. They took even their identity away from them and gave them new names that pertained to the different gods that the Babylonians worshiped. The most demoralizing and demeaning thing. See, people understood the nature of humans from many centuries ago, and they knew how to demoralize people because Satan put it in their hearts of how to do it. And they tried to demoralize these boys by taking everything from them, and by thinking that they did that they would go along and bow. That's what they thought. And Nebuchadnezzar spoke to them and said, Is it true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you do not serve my gods, nor worship the golden image which I have set up? And he's trying to save face, so of course nothing can save his face. Now, if you be ready, that at what time you hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, and dulcimer, and all kinds of music, you fall down and worship the image which I have made. He said, well then, if you've done it, that's great. He's going to give him another chance. But listen to this arrogant devil. But if you worship not, you shall be cast the same hour into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. Listen to this. And who is that God that shall deliver you out of my hands? Oh my Lord in heaven, what an arrogant devil. Who is that God? Well, these three boys are getting ready to show him who that God is. Let me tell you something, people. You are here on this earth as a child of God. You are put here not for your comfort. You are put here to serve him. And one of your jobs is to show this world that there is a God. Amen. That's your job. Amen. You show them through your life. You show them through the things that you do. And if you will surrender yourself to God, he will do miracles through you. He will. He's not out of the business of doing that anymore. He's still doing it. You got to surrender. And these boys were surrendered. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, rather than cowering, trembling, shaking, being scared to death, this is what they said to the king. And this man was literally the king of the world at that time, the known world. They said, "Oh, Nebuchadnezzar, we're not careful to answer you in this matter. We're not afraid of you. We're not hesitant. We're not going to have to sit and think of something clever to say to you. We just go tell it like it is, king." He said, "If it be so, our God whom we serve is able." Let's say that together. Our God whom we serve is able. He's able, people. You've got to believe that. If you can't believe that, you are doomed. He said, our God in whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of thy hand, O king. He can. He's able, and if he wants to deliver, he can deliver. But if not, if he chooses still not to deliver and to let us burn in that fiery furnace, be it known unto thee, O king, that we will not serve thy gods, nor worship the golden image which you have set up. That's the deal that we need to have with God, that no matter what, whether we live or whether we die, we will not bow to the world's gods. No matter what. That's what we need to determine. And that time is coming. We're going to have to prove that. We ain't just going to talk the talk. We're going to have to walk the walk. And it's coming soon, people. Please understand it's coming soon. Then was Nebuchadnezzar full of fury. And the form of, I like this old English, the form of his visage was changed. That meant the color went out of his face. To hear these boys stand up against the mighty Nebuchadnezzar, literal king of the known world, and say that to him without even blinking. And it said the form of his visage was changed against Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Therefore he spoke and commanded that they should heat the furnace 7 times more than it was supposed to be heated. In other words, it went from red hot to white hot. They heated that furnace 7 times hotter than it was supposed to have been heated. He was that angry. He was that mad. And let me tell you something. When you make a stand, the form of the devil's visage changes too. And the color goes out of his face because he's an arrogant, hateful, evil entity. And he thinks that he's God and that he's going to get to be God one day. And when you show him you don't want no part of him and that you're not going to give in to his terror and give in to his fear, it turns to rage. Be prepared, the devil is raging. It's like that song says, we got the power though. In the name of Jesus. Let him rage. We will not be forsaken by God. We will not be defeated. We got the power in the name of the Lord. And so he says he commanded the most mighty men that were in his army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and to cast them into the burning fiery furnace. And these men were tied up. They were bound in their coats, their hosen, their hats, and their other garments, so to make the flame even bigger. And they were cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Now therefore, because the king's commandment was urgent, and the furnace was exceedingly hot, the flames of the fire killed those men that took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. It was so hot, it killed the soldiers that throwed them in there. Just standing on the top of that furnace, the flames were so hot it killed them, but they were scared not to do it, but what the king would do. And these three men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell down, bound into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. I saw a picture of what that fiery furnace looked like, and it was like a box made out of some kind of concrete or rock. And it had a window down at the bottom and chairs around it like a theater, where Nebuchadnezzar would sit and watch people where they were thrown in the top of that, and he would watch them burn alive for his entertainment. But let me tell you something, that old devil is not going to get no entertainment today. He's not going to be entertained today, and he's not going to be successful at striking terror in the hearts of those men today. No, no, no. It's going to be a whole different day. It said that Nebuchadnezzar the king was astonished. And he rose up in haste. He got up out of his chair and went over to the window, and he spoke and said to his counselors, "Did we not cast three men bound into the midst of the fire?" And they said, "True, O king." And he said, "Lo, I see four men loose. Walking in the midst of the fire. Walking now. They're walking through the furnace in the middle of the fire, and they have no hurt. And the form of the fourth is like the Son of God." He's always going to be there for you, people. Please understand, you do not need to fear if you are his child. You do not need to fear. Let them holler. Let them scare. Let them sow their seeds of terror all they want. But just remember, you got the shotgun right here, buddy. You got it right here. And this don't ever change. And it means what it says, and it says what it